Currently, I am working at Ambedkar University, Delhi. It is a public university by the government of NCTD, the National Capital Territory of Delhi. And here my role is for instructional design. Prior to that, I was working with Wawasan Open University, and my role there was for education technology and creation of learning resources. I have also worked as director of Commonwealth of Learning for its regional office in New Delhi, that is Commonwealth Educational Media Center for Asia. And in addition to that, I have been visiting professor to Brazil and Fiji. I have a very long and beautiful stint with Indira Gandhi National Open University as its regional director in various regional centers. In fact, I think almost I have covered all the Northeast, Southwest in 1996, starting with Shillong. And to me, Shillong is still one of the most beautiful place on earth, not only in India, I consider it that way. And from Northeast, then I had the opportunity to join Northwest in Jaipur. At that time, Jaipur was the combined regional center, the sole regional center for Rajasthan. And you know, Rajasthan is very, very big state. So later on, another regional center came up in Jodhpur, where I was posted at the, I think after a gap of 20 years in 2014. And you know, when we are in central government job, sometimes there is a limitation of movement. And I used to complain that why we are being transferred from place to place. And perhaps today we will have the good fortune of listening to Professor Som Naidu in the afternoon session. He once said that, Ramesh, why are you complaining? Because you have been, you know, posting at all the most beautiful places. Because I was regional director at Goa, I was regional director at Andaman and Nicobar Islands, I was in Jaipur, I was in Jodhpur, I was in Shillong. So all these are in a way the best places. And my assistant registrar at IGNOU, he used to joke that, sir, people come to Goa for 5 or 6 days maximum, spend 50,000, 60,000 there and then go back. And we are living here, we are earning the money and enjoying the place also. And I agree with his statement. So this is a little bit brief. I have been working in the field of education technology and technology enabled learning. I have created some online courses. In fact, we feel very proud that we were the first in India to create an online course, which was, and I think my good friend, Dr. Praveen Sharma, he is also in this session now, a self-paced 4-week online course on podcasts in education. And currently the podcast, if you see most of the organizations, they have, and individuals, not only organizations, they have started their podcast channels and they are gaining because of its inherent capacity of low bandwidth and communicating the message, and you become a digital storyteller that way. So that was there. Now, let us begin with our session. And before I invite our worthy speakers, Dr. Rajesh Barnwal and Anshulji, a little bit background. As we know that Sir Professor Swashkula of World Economic Forum, he has identified that we are in the 4th industrial revolution now. The first being when the power of steam engines were there, and then the second stage was when mass production of industrialization came. The third one was when the computers, they started you know, being used in almost all of our activities. And this is the era when the artificial intelligence technologies, the deep learning, machine learning, etc., they have taken over almost all the activities of our life. And just 2 days ago, I read a news that the Amica, a company, they have created a humanoid robot, which actually looks like, if you just clothe them up properly, they are blinking, they are smiling like as a human being is smiling. So the person, it is not, it is a, you can say, an advanced version of Sophia. She was granted the first passport visa in the world, like that. So these things, they are, the technology is emerging very fast, and we have the other kind of fields like GPT-3, GPT-4 has come, which is so powerful that in a way, the software can create software. Means we are being saying bye bye, that okay, you take rest, we will do our own things, our own. So machines are working that way, and it has very high impact on education processes, and particularly assessment and evaluation being one of these processes. As we know, measuring learning is a necessary part of every one of us who are teachers. And we teachers need to check for students' understanding, and means not only us, the parents, the students, the leaders, everybody needs to know how students are doing overall, because we need to help them successfully prepare for the college and work, like that. In addition to supporting learning across content areas, the technology-enabled assessments, they can help reduce the time, the resources, and disruption of learning, which is required for the administration of, say, paper assessments. And these assessments are delivered using technology. They can provide a very exhaustive, detailed, and nuanced picture of students' needs, interests, and abilities that can traditional assessments allowing educators to zero in on the personalized learning. Sometimes ago, I had, when the MOOCs, they were gaining popularity, and in fact, the Time magazine, it had declared the year 2012 as the year of the MOOC. If you search there, the magazine's homepage, then there you will find that. And means everybody was trying to take the massification of education technology on a higher level, on a next level. And at that time, means there were quite some apprehensions, which are still valid, because people, when it comes to online assessment, people still call about it, about the ethical practices or the cheating or those issues. I had attended one program which was conducted by Professor Andrew Ang, and one member from the audience asked him that question, that in online examination, how do you control the thing? And at that time, I still remember that he told that like our fingerprints and the dental or the iris structure, which are unique to each individual, even our typing speed is, typing pattern is means unique to all individuals. And they have that software that once the examination starts, and suppose if I'm poor in my course, I will request Professor S.P. Malhotra that, okay, my camera is off now, can you come and do the typing for me? This software will catch us. The software can find that it is not Ramesh Sharma, but Malhotra Sahab is doing the thing there. So means that way. And so the AI technologies, they have really done it changed a lot of these things. And what happened that through these embedded assessments, we teachers, we can see the evidence of students thinking during the learning process, and provide them real-time feedback through learning, say, dashboard, which they can decide and find out about in that case. And the families, their guardians, their parents, etc. They can be more informed about what and how their kids are learning during the school day, after the schools, etc. Means in the long term, educators, schools, state, the nation, they can use this information to support the continuous improvement and innovations in learning. One of the technology of AI, which is computer vision, it is quite powerful. Like on Facebook has declared it that they're taking it back, the face recognition system. But in China, in the schools, these face recognition systems, they were placed because, and in many other countries, means of course, because the software in that case can do the analysis of what we in education, we call it as the affective domain, whether the students are interested or disinterested in this class. And similarly, these technology enabled tools, they can also support the teacher evaluation and coaching, because they can capture the video and other evidence of the qualities of teachers, such as teamwork or collaboration. So these things, they provide us new opportunities for self-reflection, peer reflection, and feedback, and a supervised evaluation. And particularly like in teacher education field, where we do this Bachelor of Education, Master of Education, etc., in which the teaching practice is carried forward. So that kind of supervised evaluation. But here one point is there, that we should be mindful of whether means what we are measuring is easy to measure, or what is most valuable to measure. Because traditional assessments in schools and post-secondary institutions, currently they rely largely on, say, multiple choice questions, we look forward to Dr. Vineet Joshi, is the chairman of the National Testing Agency. So UGC test, I just saw that the notification came, or so they fill in those kind of answers. So many assessments, they also happen after learning has occurred, and with the results delivered months later, usually the course has ended. So the assessments, they are more instructionally useful when they can afford a timely feedback, which is very much important. And we as educationists, we know the significance of immediate feedback and delayed feedback, that which is suitable when and how we can do that. So continued advances in technology, it is expanding the use of ongoing, formative, and embedded assessments that are less disruptive and more useful for improving learning. And particularly, this has highlighted its significance since the past 2 years, when there has been a big disruption in the educational services due to lockdowns, due to physical distances, etc., no formal gathering. So the examinations, they have postponed. There have been much thought on what kind of alternative assessments they can be developed for this kind of situation. And these advances, they also ensure that all the students, they have the best opportunity to demonstrate their knowledge and skills on national level assessments that increasingly focus on real world skills and complex demonstrations of understanding. And particularly now the governments, they are thinking of that, as in case of the testing for not only admission to the educational courses, even for career opportunities, for the job placements also. These kind of national level assessments, they need be carried forward. And such assessments, when they are coupled with meaningful accountability, it becomes an essential part of ensuring that the student, they have equitable access to high quality experiences. So with these initial remarks to introduce the theme of today, I take great pride in introducing our speakers. I hope that they have joined. I need to see the video.
Both of them are here.
Okay, very good, sir. Okay, Mr. Anshul.
Anshul and Rajesh both are here.
Thank you, sir. So, Sonakji is currently the Global Director, Digital Readiness Programs and Senior Director of Global Artificial Intelligence Readiness at Intel Corporation, Singapore. He will be talking to us from Singapore, which is 2.5 hours ahead of India time. So I think it is already going to be noon time and maybe lunch for him. He is a global business strategy and program designer with a focus on digital readiness, the future of work learning skills, which is highly important, and the social impact. He is the first principal engineer for digital readiness programs and future of work in Intel. He gives keynotes to multiple governments and multilateral forums like UNDP, UNESCO, UNESCAP, American Development Bank, USAID organizations, among many others. He is the UNDP, that is United Nations Development Programs, Asia's first youth co-club champion. And he is a global judge in MIT Solve, which is highly significant and recognized, and a board advisor to select social impact organizations across the world in the education, skill tech, and social impact sector. So with this brief profile of Mr. Anshul Sonak, may I request him now to share his thoughts and experiences on how the field of assessment and evaluation, it is offering us the new opportunities in the education. Or maybe I think if connecting is taking some time, maybe I can request Dr. Rajesh to begin with, and in the meantime, Anshulji can connect. So friends, in the meantime then, okay, let me introduce Dr. Rajesh Barnwal, who is a principal research scientist of CSIR India and currently leading the Artificial Intelligence and IoT, that is Internet of Things lab, as part of the IT group at CSIR Central Mechanical Engineering Research Institute, Durgapur in India. He was awarded the Senior Member Award by the Association of Computing Machinery, ACM, which is highly reputed, one of the leading associations in the computing field. We are very happy to with the fact that Dr. Barnwal has led several R&D and industrial consultancy projects funded by the Government of India in the field of artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, data informatics, and cyber physical systems. So he has various copyrights and design registrations to his credit for his authored software and technological products. During this pandemic time, in the COVID-19 times, he has developed and filed a patent on an IoT-based IntelliMask, means the solar-powered intelligent mask ATM cum thermal scanner technology for the workplace, which has attracted the attention of national and international media. We are very happy to have you, Dr. Rajesh, with us.
Thank you, Professor Sharma and Professor Mukhopadhyay. Basically, I would like to thank Professor Mukhopadhyay particularly who has invited me in this particular international forum, having a gathering of more than 300 audience, even in the last day of that particular conference, right? So it's a really commendable job Professor Mukhopadhyay is doing in the field of educational technology.
Let me then mention I have called Rajesh because I have heard his lecture earlier. It was a full 45 minutes and I never absented myself. Rajesh is a young scientist, but he can teach many people. So I called Rajesh, I invited Rajesh, and we had a conversation when I was sitting in the airport. Thank you, Rajesh, for accepting. Carry on.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for inviting me. So today, as because this forum is very, very big, and what I presume is that this forum is having a kind of blend of people who are actually either basically influencing the policies or a kind of taking the decision in particular direction for this particular area where this particular blended and e-learning or hybrid kind of learning will be adopted in country and even other neighboring country, right? So my particular talk for today's will be AI intervention for assessment and examination, and I'll be talking about few technologies and opportunities, and at the end I'll be trying to just leave few questions which may deliberate in this panel discussion, right? So with this particular prelude, I'm just trying to go to my first slide. And first, let us know that what's the basically requirement and why we are doing assessment and examination. We're taking examination for the people, right? So if you'll try to see, it's an integral part of any kind of courses. Whatever learners are going, either it is online or offline, we have to have some kind of examination or assessment process in all the kind of courses, whatever we are floating or whatever learners are taking, right? So if we'll try to see, if we are assessing and if we are examining the learner, first and foremost thing is that can we verify the identity? Because we don't, as a kind of teacher or as a kind of assessor, we don't want that whatever whoever I am certifying, that is a kind of fake certification which we are giving to some kind of learner, and that will eventually lose its significance, right? So we have to have some kind of verification, anti-verification mechanism in all kind of examination. Now if we'll try to focus on this objective of exams or assessment, we will find that what we actually do, we are trying to test the learning, right? Learning of any learner, what the level of learning they have gathered, right? Second, obviously in the current system of examination in India and other countries, basically they are also trying to have that whatever they have learned, whether they can memorize it or not. And if they are memorizing, whether at the time of need, at the time of problem solving, whether they can use it or not. Then test of preparedness, how prepared or how much prepared a particular learner is for their real life scenario or real life problems, right? So this is another objective. Again, we are trying to formulate some questions and kind of assessment assignment in such a manner that it should induce a kind of critical thinking or problem solving acumen, right? And this is also actually one of the objective of any exam or assessment. Then we also test in an exam, that is what's the problem solving skill people have gathered. And at the end, we try to do some kind of fair grading of the learner and certify them that what kind of or what level of knowledge they have gathered during the course or during the program, right? If I try to see the examination modes which are being followed in any country around the world, this is mostly divided into kind of offline and online exams, right? So if even if we are going to a kind of further detail, we can find out that environment of examination can be anything like closely monitored exam, which we are used to do, basically used to face in our regular colleges or regular schools. Then non-monitored exam, right? As most of us has actually witnessed that during this pandemic era, people have tried to adopt this Google Forms and this kind of examination pattern where there is no kind of possibility for monitoring the student how they are actually giving the answer, right? So these are kind of non-monitored exam people are facing, and that's a kind of environment that has been evolved during last few years. Then open book exams, now I think in IIT like situation, there are many professors or many teachers are there who are promoting this open book exam. Forget about open book, it's open time, open internet and everything. I have seen few people, a few students who are not able to face or who are not able to even get a good respective marks, even though they are given this chance to open the book, open the internet and open the notes. Not only that, open time even, right? So that kind of innovative examination pattern or examination questions are also there in the open book exam, which really tests the problem solving skill of the student. And this closed book exam, what we are facing in the normal or kind of traditional school and college examinations, where nothing is allowed, no even notes or not even taking help from other people, other person, right? Then if we try to find out the purpose of the examination and assessment, you will try to will see that primary purpose of this particular examination and assessment is to assess the learning, and it should be only to assess the learning, not memorization, right? Not only that, it should assess the core concept and knowledge, not some kind of mugging up and mugging up the concept and write, just mug up the concept, remember it for 1 or 2 days, write the examination and forget about that. This should not be the objective of any assessment and examination process. Third is, can we assess relevant higher order skills through this assessment and examination? This must be the question before any teacher or any professor who is there in the process of assessment and examination, or planning some kind of questions or problem designing for this kind of assessment of learners. Then assessment should have the capabilities of find out the capability of the learner, whether they are able to apply learned knowledge in real life situation or not. If they are not able to apply this learned knowledge in real life situation, in my opinion, that has no meaning, and even that the certification or the degree awarding institution is not doing any fair evaluation for that kind of learners, right? So what is the threat of our current system? If we'll try to see the threat in our current system, we'll try to find out, or we'll find out that we are unable to check plagiarized or copied content, because we are now actually what we are doing is that we are doing some kind of mechanical evaluation or some manual evaluation where we don't have any technology implemented over there that we can check that particular content has been copied from some book, some notes, or some other third person or some fellow colleague, right? So this is another threat for any kind of certification, any kind of assessment, or any kind of examination where we try to assess the actual learning process of any learner. Second is that if we'll try to see the examination process, current examination process, it promotes depression rather than fun in the examination. Rather than showing our skill with energy, we are trying to promote the depression in those kind of candidates, and most of the candidates are getting pressurized due to high stake examination. This is common fact, and if we try to go in some kind of examination hall or exam just before the outside the examination hall, we can find out that see how pressurized these particular examinees are. Are we actually intending to have that kind of pressure or that kind of depression induced in those kind of learners, or our aim should be to have some kind of assessment which should be very normal for those guys, right? So again, the another threat, if I'll try to see in the current system, we have adopted old system of marking and grading. I don't know how much it is helping the system and the learner, even in the to the teacher and assessor or even job giver. But this is my personal experience that when you are sitting in any kind of interview, you will able to see, and I think most of you have witnessed this, that their grades are very good, but their learning skill or their kind of problem solving skill are very bad. We can't blame learner for this particular problem. Only we have to see that whether our system, examination system, are good enough to basically grade those kind of learner, and whether the certificate is reflecting their actual skill or not. We have to have kind of learning and assessment process. Not we should be having coaching for teaching techniques or shortcut, right? So now if we'll try to see the coachings which have been evolved or kind of mushroomed all around the country or all around the world, what they are trying to fit is that how to solve this problem in shortcuts, or what are the techniques you can utilize to solve this problem. And our current examination system is good enough to get full from these kind of techniques and shortcuts. But whether we are able to assess those learners rightly or correctly about their skill, or just we are trying to check those capability which is there with this particular learner, which is providing them few techniques or few shortcuts to solve few known kind of problems, right? So what should be the requirement of assessment method? Let us see that the assessment method should be more scientific. It should not be a kind of mechanical, that a kind of routine type of checking which anybody can do. Even if you are going in the higher education bodies, even in IITs or NITs, what sometimes basically we are seeing that even a kind of teaching assistant, and they can people like who are actually helping the labs, they can evaluate the learner using this kind of mechanical assessment process. In mechanical assessment process, if I am talking about, it's nothing but there are a few sets of questions and people will be writing the answer for that, and we will be just trying to see the correctness of that particular answer and evaluate that. But is it that scientific? This should be that basically this should be the question in our mind. Then designed to continuously improve learning. Our assessment process is not to basically induce depression or induce a kind of bad effect in any kind of learner's mind, but it should be designed to continuously improve learning. Our basically objective should be that how we should be designing our assessment and examination process, which will help to improve learning process in the learner rather than inducing that kind of pressure environment. And we have to design the assessment in such a manner that it should test the application of knowledge, not the only theoretical part, right? It should induce fun. But how we can induce fun? Then we'll be trying to see in this particular presentation what are the different methods we can induce, using which we can induce fun in the assessment and learning process. Then ensure, basically we have to ensure a stimulating and engaging learning experience. So assessment and examination should be a part of the learning process. It should not be a kind of separate than learning process, right? So whenever you are doing basically being assessed for any kind of learning, it should further induce learning. It should not be in isolation. Only assessment and examination should not be seen in isolation. Basically, other than the teaching process is also included in this assessment and examination process. Then can we have kind of incentivization method which will actually induce some kind of fun during this assessment and examination process? Can we have some kind of rewards and recognitions for each and every assessment and examination? Though we are having in current scenario, we are having some kind of marking system, some kind of grading system, some kind of ranking system, but we really lack actually this kind of rewards or new generation rewards and recognition system, which we will be talking about. If we try to see in the current scenario, everybody, at least in India, is talking about new education policy. And if we try to find out the fine prints in the new education policy about the examination and assessment, what we can see is that they are more focusing on the continuous formative and adaptive assessment rather than summative kind of examination pattern, right? So, which actually should track the individualize and ensure each student's learning. So, assessment is here for ensuring the student's learning, not only the for the assessment of the student, right? So the assessment tools, and then again, this particular new education policy is telling about that we should be having some kind of assessment tool. Though this roadmap is missing in this new education policy, which kind of assessment tools we should be having, but they are actually advocating for this kind of assessment tools, which should be aligned to the learning outcomes, capabilities, and dispositions as specified for each subject of a given class, right? So obviously they are also promoting some kind of assessment tools, and that should be technology led assessment tool, which should be actually assessing the learning outcomes, capabilities, and dispositions of the learner. Then third point, if we'll try to see in the new education policy, they are actually giving emphasis on regular and formative or more competency based assessment which should promote learning and development, right? We should promote learning and development. Means examination and assessment should also promote learning and development. We have to mark over here. It's not that examination and assessment is coming at the end of the learning or to assess the learning, but it should also be a process of promoting learning and development in the students, right? Which actually induce higher order skills such as analysis, critical thinking, and conceptual clarity. If we try to see another point in national education policy, new education policy, you'll find that they are talking about the progress card to be holistic. It should not be only subject based. It should reflect the progress as well as the uniqueness of each learner. In my opinion, each learner has basically unique capability, and our assessment process should try to find out that unique capability, and then they should be certifying that what kind of unique capability each learner is having, so that if they are going in the job market or if they are going in the kind of higher studies, that particular uniqueness in that particular learner should be leveraged further to make that particular learner a better citizen or better human being or a kind of better service provider or a kind of better employee, right? And third, if you'll try to see the next keyword, they are telling in the cognitive, affective, and psychomotor domain, right? So they are also trying to assess the thinking process of the learner. It's not only the kind of theoretical taste or some objective or subjective kind of taste. It should also taste some kind of cognitive and cognitive capability in that particular learner or the learner which we are trying to assess, right? And the last point which I could get from there, that to include self-assessment and peer assessment. It's not always that basically we are as a teacher, we are trying to assess that particular learner about their learning, but it should also be a kind of our learning process should also promote self-assessment, right? Whether the student or the learner can do some kind of self-assessment, can we promote or can we have some kind of technology or process using which the learner can assess themselves without any pressure from outside. Can we induce some kind of technology where I can basically check, or I can assess my peer, or my peer can assess me, that how much I am ready for my real life problems, right? It's basically, if this particular new education policy is talking about self-assessment and peer assessment, they're not talking about getting rid of the teacher assessment. However, the self-assessment and peer assessment are the integral part of the assessment which can go along with the teacher assessment process. If we try to see the pre and post-pandemic scenario, pre-pandemic examination, I think most of us know that this kind of examination hall scenario was there, used to be there, and people used to come in the single hall where they can solve the question paper, whatever has been designed for them. But now in post-pandemic examination scenario, what is happening? People are sitting at the comfort of their house or their hostel, and they are trying to solve few questions which is coming in the online screen. Similarly, if we'll try to see the monitoring part of the pre and post pandemic scenario, earlier in the pre-pandemic examination system, basically what was happening, some kind of teacher or invigilator used to be there in the kind of examination hall, and they used to try, see that whether any unfair means are being adopted by the candidates during the examination process. But now in post-pandemic scenario, everything got changed. Now, as Professor Mukhopadhyay, Professor Sarma was also telling, that it's a kind of a proctored examination now people are adopting, where in the post-pandemic scenario, a particular proctor is able to see remotely all the kind of people on a single screen, right? And these particular proctored examinations are not only human proctored, it is also sometimes, or many a times nowadays, are actually AI proctored. Means some kind of artificial intelligence algorithms and models are there inside the particular proctored examination system, where this complete computer system is there, which is trying to monitor activity of each and every examinees in the examination hall. Now, there is no such examination hall in the correct sense, but it's a basically wherever these people are, they are sitting and giving examination, they should be monitored, right? And there are a lot of technologies which are helping over here in AI proctored examination or remote human proctored examination. What's the concern and difficulties in this kind of scenario? We have to have check for integrity of the learner or integrity of the examinees who are giving examinations or who are being assessed. So primary concerns of examinations is, are we able to maintain integrity of the assessment? Whether we are capable of giving a fair grading to the right talent. Not only that, but in this kind of digital learning era, we are facing different difficulties like geographically distributed students. We cannot have any control on those students' place and place of examination from where they are giving. Not only that, we are not able to control the nearby or vicinity of that particular examinee, using which we can ensure the integrity of the examination system. Then basically we cannot ensure in remote kind of scenario that we are able to deploy any local supervisor for this particular paper or these examinees, and we don't have any control over environment around the students in this kind of remote examination system or proctored examination system. Now, if I try to see the pre-pandemic scenario, it's not only these difficulties are coming in this kind of remote or this kind of post-pandemic scenario where this online examination or virtual examination system are being adopted. But if you try to see the use of unfair means during pre-pandemic scenario, that used to be there, right? People were passing some kind of helps or getting help from the peer examinees in the examination hall. And this was the common scenario. I think every teacher might have seen this particular scenario. Not only that, this is another very, very popular picture which has been basically which has attracted the attention of the media, that this kind of third party help used to be extended to the student sitting in the examination hall. Not only that, students in the examination hall also tries to copy from some nearby examinee or a peer there. But what happened now, right? That we'll see after this particular slide. That not only that, people were also trying to have the help from study material. They used to copy in some format and try to copy that same thing in the examination hall, right? What kind of unfair means in the post-pandemic, in virtual environment, in kind of remote environment, people are adopting or people can adopt. They can have help from third person, which is outside the scene or outside this particular camera purview of your proctored examination, right? And nobody and no technology can help over here to help you out from getting evaluated this kind of scenario, right? If suppose somebody is there sitting beside that particular learner or the assessor, this particular examinee, and they are helping, right? And if they are not coming in the purview of that particular camera, I don't think there is any technology which can help over here. Obviously, you can have a multiple cameras outside this particular laptop or tabs also, which can control the environment, but that is not practically feasible in all the scenarios, right? Help from study materials. Yeah, student can take help even in the kind of remote or proctored examination scenario from other study material, like what we were facing in pre-pandemic scenario, right? They can have number of this kind of helping study material which can help during that particular examination process. But if we are not having any control in this kind of scenario, even in proctored examination or AI proctored examination, what's the way out, right? So only way out is we should be having a different kind of assessment process which should test a kind of using formative method, that what kind of skill the student has gathered, right? If we try to see the requirement of proctoring, obviously the first and foremost requirement is that authentication, whether that particular examinee who is giving examination is claiming or she is claiming his or her identity, what is she is. So there are different technologies. I'm not talking in this particular talk about these technologies. However, we are trying to induce some kind of thought process to the educationists. Not only that, we don't have any method which can stop misuse of resources. However, we are having number of technologies, AI technologies, which can limit this kind of misuse of resources, right? That we'll try to see, or we can have a differentiation for this kind of what are the different technologies which can limit this kind of misuse of resources or cheating process. Third is that misappropriating test information, means whether they are having some kind of process where they are sharing the knowledge temporarily and then utilizing that knowledge for giving examination. There are opportunities for these particular finding out the cheating process or this kind of knowledge sharing process during the examination, and these technologies we are using for any kind of proctored examination, either it is human proctored or AI proctored. Examination process. Proctored examination process normally use the earlier days, people in the initial days of this post-pandemic era, the proctored examination used to be a kind of a remotely observed monitor by some kind of human being, but slowly the AI technology came into the picture, and the people started talking about this AI technology for the proctored examination. What it does is that it uses live footage from webcam and audio from laptop or computer to understand if the student is resorting to unfair means or not, right, during the examination. But the question lies again unanswered, that even if they are able to bypass these kind of technologies, do we have any kind of method to restrict or to eliminate 100% of these possibilities? If you try to see the technology wise, the AI model is trained to catch the following discrepancies in AI proctored examination. Suppose if the student moves away from the system, the fitted model in that particular AI proctored examination will report immediately. But if that particular student is not moving from this camera view, but still, if they are trying to, they are getting the help from outside, system has no clue about it, right? If anyone else other than candidate comes within the camera frame, obviously AI is there to detect and report this. But if camera frame is not able to capture that third person who is trying to help that particular candidate, again, technology has no clue about it. If somebody else is speaking to the student, if somebody is prompting a student the answers which is required to be given in the examination, again, AI is there to capture it. But if somebody is not speaking to the student and they are adopting some other means, other visual means to have or to help the student during the examination process, again, system fails over here. If the student is reading from a different device hidden from the camera, his eye movement will be flat. And there is a good technology in AI system which can capture this kind of eye movement or kind of eye tracking, right, or gaze tracking. But if they are not moving their eyeball, and they are having some kind of arrangement where behind the screen some kind of helping screen is there, I don't think any technology is there which can capture this particular unfair means, right? And if a student tampers with audio or video, it will be again reported by the technology. But if that kind of audio and video tampering is not happening, nobody can help, or no technology can help over here. At the end of examination, a report for each student is getting generated in this kind of AI proctored examination. So what we can summarily basically get from this particular slide is that AI proctored examinations are very good, very capable of detecting all those kind of unfair means, but with certain kind of limitations which are there inbuilt into this system, and we cannot get rid of these particular limitations by any means because of different reason. Maybe demographic reason is there, maybe kind of there are limitations in that how many cameras, how many surveillance system we can put over there. These are the different limitations, and we have to live with that. So what got changed? If you try to see from the pre-pandemic and post-pandemic era, what is getting changed? Nothing, except one thing. Now we have an opportunity to capture more digital data about learners, right? If we are talking about post-pandemic era or post-pandemic examination and assessment system, we are capable now of getting more and more digital data about learners, and that we can utilize for assessing in better manner during the examination or assessment process. And this basically, we have to minimize the summative examination or assessment process, and we have to go more kind of formative type of thing. Data like surveillance data we can have from this particular digital system. Response pattern, as Professor Sarma was telling, that typing speed of each and every examinees are different, right? So that can be a kind of identification factor whether actual examinee is giving the examination or some dummy is giving examination on behalf of that claimed examinee. So response pattern should also be or can also be tracked during this kind of digital examination. Then time spent on each question. We can have that kind of data, that how much time is spent by the examinee for answering a particular question. Then answer preferences. Sometimes we are having different segment of the examination question paper, and maybe the learner is not comfortable in the first part of that examination paper, and they are directly basically jumping to the second part and giving the answers to the second part first, and then going to the first part. It also tells many things about the concept or the comfortability level of that examinee that we can utilize for assessing that particular kind of learner, right? And many more and many different kind of big data are there which can be captured during the assessment and examination process of the new era. And AI and data analytics are there to help us out to fetch meaning from each such kind of big data thing. Now, what are the different technologies are there to help us out during this kind of scenario? The ICT, obviously ICT technologies means information and communication technologies are there which can help us out in during this kind of assessment scenario. Data analytics and machine learnings are there. As because Professor Sharma was again talking about this computer vision algorithm, this is very strong part of any kind of surveillance system, automatic surveillance system, right? Where automated surveillance system where we can take help of computer vision algorithm and basically using some kind of AI technique or machine learning technique, and we can find out some of the behavior of the kind of examinees, right, or the learner. Then we can have kind of recommender system implemented over there in the examination. How that we'll see in the next slide. Natural language processing algorithm, like as Professor Sharma was talking about GPT-3, GPT-4, that kind of technologies are already there in the kind of technology domain, which can be utilized to assess or actually assess the learner's capability. Then we can have some kind of incentivization and gamification algorithm which can induce some kind of fun during the examination process and without actually pressurizing or inducing depression in the learner's brain during that, or some kind of psychological pressure during the examination process. Then we can have a kind of examination process which is personal in nature. As I told you, new education policy is also emphasizing on personalification of the learning, not only learning, assessment and examination as well. So there are a number of technologies which can personalize the profile of any learner, and accordingly they can do some kind of adaptive content generation or adaptive question generation or adaptive assessment assignment generation, right, which we can use for assessing the learner's unique capability. Not only that, we can design, or not only we can design, now technologies are capable of designing adaptive course material based on the capability of the learner, right? So these during this particular process, we can adopt technologies which can design or which can automatically adapt the course material and learning and kind of teaching and kind of assignment and examination questions based on the capability of the learner. It cannot be a kind of static which we used to see in the kind of classical traditional domain. Then augmented and virtual reality can be utilized at many places to formulate a kind of visualized problem statement or visualized problem scenario which user or the examinee can see, and then they can try to solve as they are actually expected to solve in the real life scenario. Now, what kind of assessment with big data are possible, right? So if this kind of big data we are having, or if we are having this kind of surveillance or technological data, it can give insights about many things, not only about the learner, but also teaching process. Actually, teaching and learning process can be improved using these particular insight, which can be discovered using this kind of data captured during the assessment and examination process. Not only that, if we try to see data-led insight may be transformed to customize the process of strategic teaching. Now, what we are adopting in teaching process, that we are having some kind of prescribed course material, and we are going to the class and teaching. But can we have some kind of adaptive teaching process? Not only that, obviously it is not possible in classroom environment. However, if you are trying to utilize the technology, obviously their personal tab or personal software or the learning management system can help to generate some kind of teaching material which is more adaptive to that particular learner, or which is more personalized to that particular learner. It's not a common process for all, right? If we try to see the learning management system, it can be made more adaptive rather than just uploading a kind of static content over there. And we can utilize AI technology over there to make it more adaptive. It can also exploit all such insights to personalize and customize the courseware, as I told earlier, as per the capabilities and learning pace of the learners. So each learner is having unique capability, unique pace, and if we can make our teaching in that, or teaching and assessment and examination process based on the capability of the learner, I think the examination process or assessment process or even learning process will induce more fun rather than more depression in the examination or in the during the examination. How technologies can help over here? Using technology like GAIN, we can induce, GAIN means generative adaptive network. This is another kind of deep learning technique which can induce creative thinking process by posing some artificial problems. So they can generate few questions. They can have some kind of problem statement which can induce some kind of creative thinking in the learner or in the examinees. Then we can utilize recommender system which may be used to guide the student to sail through the required part of the curriculum. Suppose a particular learner is going through a particular part of the course, right? And they are finding difficulty in understanding that part of the course. Can our technology come as a help over there, and some kind of recommender system is there which will recommend the student that you please go through this concept first, and then understanding this concept will be easier for you. So it's a kind of active learning, right? It's a kind of adaptive learning. So recommender system we are using in a kind of many e-commerce domain like Amazon, or maybe a kind of OTT platform, that you have seen a particular, you watched a movie and then your OTT platform is suggesting that based on your last watch of the movie, this movie may be of your interest, right? On Amazon, if you are going to search a particular item, and then your recommender system, which is inbuilt in this Amazon e-commerce platform, they are suggesting you may be interested in these products, right? So technologies are there, people are using it, but can we adopt those technologies in education domain? This is the question over here. Then gamification can be induced. Now gamification is a part of now number of means informal kind of courses which are being adopted, basically delivered in online mode. But can we have this gamification process in the regular examination in the colleges, universities? Using this gamification, what we are doing is that this particular assessment process actually tries to adopt all the goodness of these games, right? In games, what we are doing, we are solving, or we are actually achieving some kind of level, and these levels are getting uplifted one by one based on my capability or based on the capability of the this particular performer in the game, right? Same examination process can be adaptive. Suppose a particular person or particular learner has solved a particular level of examination, can it be increased automatically? The level can be increased automatically to give them more marks or more rewards or more recognition to those kind of a student who are actually more capable, rather than having some kind of static questions or some kind of static problems. Not only that, if we are trying to see the old books, those are having very static content, right? But the new books are coming with some kind of QR code that you can scan and find out the linked content over the internet, right? And what's the beauty of this linked content? That linked content can be changed at any time. You can have a push method to push any kind of linked content over there, which can help for assessment and learning in personalized manner to those learners. So now QR code can be adopted in any kind of course material where people, if they want, they can directly go to the linked material, and that linked material must be a kind of personalized, which is taking help from basically taking inputs from the online profile of that particular learner.
Since I think it is going to be a very, very lively session because there are so many comments. So Rajesh ji, maybe when you complete your, then we can take this.
I'm finishing it within 5 to 7 minutes.
Yes, sure.
So some possibilities with technology is what we can have. Can we use virtual and augmented reality in learning and assessment process? These are the few questions I am trying to impose on the audience and which can be deliberated during this panel discussion. Can we use AI assistant to automatically track the learning hours of a learner, searching pattern and problem solving acumen of the learner on 24/7/365 basis? If you are on the digital technology has to be adopted, technology has to be developed over there. Then can we implement recommender system to provide valuable information on the learner about his strengths, areas of interest, and needed area of focus, and to thereby help them make optimal career choices? It should not be a kind of unrealistic career choices. That recommender system, based on the capability, what you possess or what has been assessed by your AI assistant, they can recommend some kind of different career choices to you, right? In real life, problems are not segregated subject wise as we are getting taught in our schools and colleges. It's a physics problem, it's a chemistry problem, it's a biology problem. In real life, it is not segregated like that. Thus, can we formulate interdisciplinary problem during assessment and examination by mixing of the concept with real life example? Some possibilities with technology. Again, can we have bias-free AI model with trustworthy explanation for all-round assessment of the learner? Can we do gamification for continuous evaluation of the learner and provision for virtual rewards, badges, and recognition, which are now a de facto in internet world? Can we engage the AI assistant to provide hints to the examinee to lower down the pressure on the examination system or on the examination giving candidates during the exam? Maybe with some penalty, that's fine. But AI assistant can help dynamically those examinees by providing some kind of hints to the examinee during the examination process. Can we use NLP technologies like GPT for automatic evaluation of the subjective papers, where this mechanical evaluation can be get rid of? Then fate of in-person assessment. The question comes, if we are adopting this technology, what would be the fate of in-person assessment and examination? This is my opinion that even after these technological advancements, the relevance of in-person teaching and assessment cannot be diminished. Personal interaction during the teaching and learning process has its own place, and may not be fully replaced by the technology-led teaching and assessment process even in near future. Technologies like AI, ML, and data analytics can play an assistive role that has the power to substantiate the human-led teaching and assessment process. And trade-off between technology-led and human-led teaching and assessment process has to be decided to optimize the learner's outcome. What should be the role of policymakers and researchers over here? We have to decide the proportion of technology-led and human-led assessment. This is required by the policymaker, that how much technology-led and how much human-led assessment should be there, and how we can blend these two systems together to have some kind of optimized outcome, to decide the areas where technology-led assessment can substantiate human-led assessment process, to decide the adaptability of the technologies based on demographics. So based on demographic, we have to have a different technology or different kind of models adopted over here to push the technological advancement for better learner adaptive and focused assessment. Thank you. And with this, basically, this particular forum is open for the question. If any kind of question or deliberation is needed, I am open for that. Thank you.
First of all, a big clap for Dr. Barnwal. Wonderful presentation. And in fact, I was thinking that, oh, it's a wonderful like crash course on AI-based and technology-based things. You have covered so many things. And I don't want to take more time because there are many questions and issues last. So let me select some of the questions. Would you like to share some of your thoughts? Because currently blockchain technologies, they are coming up, in a big way. Many of the celebrities, they are shifting to NFTs. Everybody is selling their, unique products on that. And blockchain has been a very solid technology for credentials, like that. So can you share your thoughts about that? How this can, contribute to the technology-enabled assessment and evaluation?
Yeah, as blockchain technology is basically giving us opportunity to distribute the data transaction, right? Not only that, data transaction plus data verification as well, right? So if we are talking about this credit system, as because ABC, I think some of the speaker yesterday was talking about ABC system in the new education policy. That is academic bank of credit, right? So in academic bank of credit kind of scenario, people can have, or different universities, different colleges, different kind of assessment organization, they can have this particular technology in place where they can deposit all those credit or all those assessment grades into that kind of bank, and that is possible with the academic this blockchain technology. And this blockchain technology actually ensures the integrity of that data, that nobody can change. Even they are able to hack 1 or 2 or 5 system within the complete network, nobody can fiddle with the actual integrity of the data, right? And that ensures that your assessment process is having some kind of integrity or some level of integrity. Unless until more than 50% of the system on the network are getting compromised, nobody can have capability to basically change any kind of data in this kind of blockchain technology, using blockchain technology.
Very good. And since the pattern or the technology or the methodology behind AI-based assessment systems, what do you say about the should the typology of questions be changed, modified? What can be the format of that kind of assessment?
Yeah, so basically what I could gather is that you are talking about the type of questions or question patterns.
Yes.
So question pattern, if I'll try to say, see, question pattern cannot be a kind of static questions for all kind of learners, as I talked earlier as well, that basically every learner has different pace, different kind of capabilities, which our learning system should be actually exploiting, right? Which should be for focusing on, and our assessment, our results should be reflecting that what kind of capability this particular learner is having, so that we can have a kind of knowledge, or the even job giver can have a knowledge that with this particular person can be fitted for which kind of job.
So thank you so much. I think a big clap for Dr. Rajesh Barnwal.